My name is Jacob and welcome to another episode of Raw and Uncut on the Abrasive Conversations platform. In this episode, I want to talk about the Master's and PhD journey. Now, I want to talk to everyone, wherever you are in your journey. This can be your first year, you can be busy with your proposal, or you can be towards the end of your dissertation or your degree. Now, normally a master's degree and a PhD degree is either by coursework. Coursework meaning that you have 4 modules and then you have a mini dissertation. That can be for master's and that can be for your PhD. Now, while coursework, a lot of people prefer the coursework. At the end and towards the end, they have to submit a research project. And that research project becomes an extremely daunting task. Now, if you're doing it by full thesis, it means that you are enrolling and you start a research project from the beginning up until the end. And it has a certain criteria attached to it. So it has a certain amount of pages that you have to write, and it is a rigorous research project that you have to go through. I'm not saying that the mini dissertation during coursework is not as rigorous, but I'm talking more about the volumes of work that you have to do when it's by full thesis. So when I did my master's and my PhD, both of them were by full thesis. So I had to write a proposal. This proposal had to go through various stages. It has to get approval. There was ethics involved, and once you have your ethics and your approval to start with your PhD and it's registered, then you can start doing the research. Now, from my experience, it was not an easy task. I got extremely ill while I was busy with my master's, especially towards the end when I had to write up, analyze and write up my research and submit it. And I can remember it was during the winter that I was busy with this write-up process, and I got extremely ill. It took me 2 months out of my research because I was every evening in the library working up until extremely late, go back to my rest room and then still continue, get up and go to work. Now, that's the important thing. I was also working full-time at that time. So I was full-time registered for a full thesis for both my master's and my PhD program. And work was hectic, and then I still had to give attention to my PhD. Now, as a man, I didn't have the other duties that black women especially have, or women in general. Women would work full-time during the day, and then they still have to go take care of a family, and then they still have to do a lot of their research and writing up, get up early in the morning, prepare the children for school, prepare themselves for work, get to work, fight patriarchy, and then in that time, still squeeze time in to read some and put yourself in a mental space where you can do research. Now, the reason why I'm talking today about the master's and PhD journey, because it's not an easy process. It's not an easy process for anyone, not for men, not for women. But I believe that women find it a little bit more daunting than any other group. So with that being said, I would like in this episode share some tips with anyone in their master's and PhD journey, things that helped me during the process. I will put 1 or 2 photos in this episode just to show what are some of the things that I was talking about when you're listening to this particular episode. So there's about 7 tips, and it was first presented, I think, in 2016. For those of you that might not know, I was working in student affairs or student support services for about 10 years. And during those 10 years, my duty was to coordinate a program where students are looking after other students, ensuring those students pass university. It was a mentoring program, and there was different layers in this mentoring program. So the first time I presented this motivational tips was during that time. And what I did is just I parked it. Now, over the past 2 weeks, I realized that there might be some of my friends and colleagues out there that is finding the master's and PhD journey extremely difficult. And this is the motivation behind it. So let me start with the first step. The first step is know why you are doing this. Now, for me, this was the most important tip, because when things get harder down the road, then I would always come back to know your why. So whether you are thinking about enrolling for a master's or PhD, or whether you just started with your PhD or your master's, or whether you are in the middle or quite far in the process, this would always help you to get the courage and strength to read another chapter, to write another paragraph, and push through that journey of repetitive reading and explanation. And that's one of the things that you really kills you during this process, is the repetitive repeat, looking at the facts, rethinking it, presenting it, getting feedback from your supervisor, changing a lot of the feedback, reading more, supporting more of your arguments, and it's a lot of repetition. So sometimes you can read a chapter up to 6 times, and you can read your final draft up to 7 times. So it's a lot of work that you put in. It's a lot of repetitive work in the process. So knowing your why, for me, was the most important tip that always motivated me and allowed me to push through. So my motivation was, I wanted to break the cycle within our family. I wanted to become the first one to get to a PhD. Even though when I started my degree, my first instinct was just to get a degree and get a decent job. But then I started doing really good at university, so I did honors. Then I was offered a master's. I took the master's, and then I decided I'm going to just finish it once and for all. So I started in 2007, and I finished in 2018 with everything from undergrad up until PhD. So it was quite a long journey, a journey of 11 years to get to PhD. For me, it was my case. But when I enrolled for my PhD, the reason why I did it is that I wanted the young children in our family coming up to aspire to someone. I wanted them to know that within the family there is someone that through every circumstance, through all of the hardships, were able to get to a doctorate degree, get an honors degree, get a master's degree, and get a PhD. So my motivation was family driven. Now there's many other people. Their motivation might be money. Motivation might be the accolades that comes with it, and it might be even for the research. They really have this inquisitive nature about the phenomenon, and they want to explore that a little bit more. So if that is your motivations, or one of them is your motivation, or whatever your motivation is, that is your why. So when things get difficult, then just start thinking about why you are doing it. So for example, when I had to redo or read another chapter, or do changes to the chapter, or do edits to my chapter, then I always had this picture in front of me of the children in my family and their innocence. And when I could see that eyes, then I would got up and I would start doing it, because I know I didn't do it for me. And what I've seen in my family particular, that there is a push towards degrees, completion of matrics, and we have now in our family a number of graduates. So for me, just pushing to and studying university and getting the PhD, I can see the generational changes that is happening in our family. So all of that, the sacrifice that I made, was worth it. Now it brings me to the second tip, and that tip is not to allow you to be paralyzed by fear. Everyone is going to experience fear. So if you're a black person, and a black woman in particular, there's so many things that you are going in this journey with. I'm not saying everyone is like this. There is amazing, confident people that doesn't have any fear, black woman, black men, but there are many of us that go into this process, and because there's no examples in your family, suddenly fear overcome you. It's like, why am I special enough to even take on a journey like this? And thinking about that fear and continue down that road of fear, then it paralyzes you. So for me, it is how I position fear. So for many people, fear is in front of them. Fear is a wall in front of them that they can't get past. What I did, I put fear at the back of me. So the reason why I put it at the back of me, because I was fearing to go back to the impoverished and destitute situation that I grew up with. So that was my fear. I never wanted to experience it. So I didn't put it in front of me, I put it at the back of me. So I constantly had to run away from this fear. And running away from that fear literally meant that I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and read up until 6 o'clock, go to the gym, go to work. During my free time at work, read more, analyze more, write some more, get back, go to the gym, come back, read some more, go to sleep, and repeat that journey. And I repeated that journey for several years. So that was my process, because fear was behind me. Now, when you put fear in front of you, it becomes a paralyzing fear. It's something that you have to go over or go through. So my tip would be is position the fear behind you, something that pushes you, and something that you want to run away from. But running away from it means that you need to run towards something. So the fear is pushing you towards a better future. For me, that was the particular case. Fear can paralyze you, but it's how you position fear and what you're going to do with fear that might be a motivational or a factor that drives you towards whatever you perceive is success. The third tip that I have is that there is no replacement for hard work. I remember back in primary, no, it was back in high school, I was this lazy student that got the concepts that the teachers taught in class very easily. So I became bored and at many times disruptive in class because the work was relatively easy for me. So one day, I went into the bathroom, and while I was in the bathroom, the principal at that point came in, and he said to me is that he could see that I have a lot of talent. But the one thing that I need to remember is that hard work and success are friends. At that point, I couldn't understand it, but it was only later, during my time in the South African Defence Force, and later when I went into university, that I realized what he's trying to say is that there is no replacement for hard work. So you can be extremely talented, you can be extremely clever. If you do not put some work into crafting your talent or your intelligence, then you will never get to the level that you potentially can. So there's no replacement for hard work. So even if you are the smartest in your class, your master's class, your PhD class, or you're just the smartest person wherever, if you do not get up and put in the work, you will not finish your master's degree. You will not finish your PhD. So the hard work for you, for most of people is to get up and do the grind. That grinding process, every day, repetitive learning, repetitive reading, is where the hard work is when you don't feel like it getting up that morning to do it. That is literally the hard work. That's the work that you have to do over and over and over again. And eventually, you will be finished. And once you are finished, then you will go on to the next stage of your career and life, where it is expected to do the same type of repetitive hard work. So there is no replacement for hard work. So you will have to work hard. You will have to read more. You will have to reach more than the average person in South Africa. You have to read more than the average undergrad or honors student at any university. And the more you read and the more you understand these difficult concepts that you are tackling in your master's, in your PhD process, the better you will become at explaining it. That hard work also means is that you have to take on different positions, for, against. You cannot just read for your argument, you must also read against your argument. It has to be a debate. That's what my supervisor said. You cannot just come in with the good. There needs to be a negative point of view also, because if you can see both sides, then you are contributing towards the debate or the scholarly field. And that is where the hard work is. That is where the hundreds of articles comes, the many chapters or books that you have to read. That is the hard work. And then the hard work would also be is taking in your supervisor's feedback, read through it, and incorporate that into your work. Edit your work, send it to your supervisor, get the feedback back. That constant back and forth between you and your supervisor, and trying to stick to deadlines. That is all part of the hard work. Nobody will do it for you. You will have to do it for yourself. This brings me to the fourth tip, and that is you have to redefine failure for you. Because one of the things is that a lot of people struggle with is sticking to deadlines. And sometimes sticking to deadlines is not because of you, it's because of your supervisor. It can be because of your supervisor. It can be of someone that said that they can come for an interview and they didn't pitch for an interview, or your focus group discussion doesn't work, or the experiment that you're busy with, that is not working. So you have a lot of factors that determines whether you're going to stick to a deadline or not. And when you don't stick to deadlines, what most probably happen is that sense of failure is start creeping in. Another sense of failure that creeps in is this feedback that you get from your supervisor. where your supervisor is not giving you the feedback that you expected, and suddenly you start feeling like a failure. Now, the feedback that your supervisor is giving you is because your supervisor have read so widely in the field. For example, my supervisor was Soren Pillay, and Soren Pillay read so wide. There was almost no topic that he didn't read. So every time I sent Soren feedback, my chapter, he gave me more and more feedback. And at that point I was thinking is, what doesn't this person, what does he not know? And I realized that he have read so much more than I have at that particular point. And what it did, it inspired me to read more and more. So that feedback from your supervisor is because they read so much more than you. They have assessed so much more theses than you. They have supervised so much more students than you. They have so much more experience than you have at that particular point. With that being said, it is okay to feel like a failure at that particular point, but you have to redefine it. Always the way I looked at failure is me giving up on my on the process. So if I decide that I'm not going to do my master's or my PhD, at that point would be a failure. But the feedback, the deadlines, all of that would not be a sense of failure to me. It would be part of the process. It is an obstacle in the journey that I had to get over, around, or go through. So that's how I saw most of those things that other people might perceive as failure. The fifth obstacle to get over, or tip, not things to get over, the fifth tip is celebrate your successes. Now, I explained to you early in this episode that I got extremely sick or ill during my master's. And I decided that is not going to happen ever with me again, because it took me 2 weeks, 2 months out, and I couldn't write. I was too ill to write. And I decided with my PhD journey, I am going to do something different. The one thing that I said that I'm going to do, I'm always going to make sure that I exercise and go to the gym. So I need to be physically strong enough to take on this this project. Now, it sounds counterintuitive, but actually it helps a lot, or it helped me a lot, because one of the things that I enjoy is long walks and running. And during this process is running and taking these long walks, what happened is that my brain got the opportunity to process a lot of the information, and then I would come up with extremely good concepts during this training exercise. So what training did, it helped me in my PhD process. The other thing that I decided that I really had to do, not to fall in the same trap that I did with my master's, is to celebrate every step of the journey. That meant for me is that if I submit my proposal, just submitting my proposal, not getting the feedback, just submitting my proposal, then I could go for a coffee. So one of the things that I started enjoying and looking forward to is completing a journey. So I decided when I finish my proposal, then I would go for a coffee. I would deserve it. I will have a slice of carrot cake. When I complete my first chapter, go for a coffee and have a slice of carrot cake. And I did that right through the whole process. So my thesis was about 8 chapters, So every chapter I celebrated. When I submitted my first draft to my supervisor, I went out for coffee and carrot cake. So the coffee and the carrot cake became that way of celebrating, and it grounded me in the process, because the one thing that I realized at the end of my masters, the celebration at the end of it is almost like an anticlimax. The 10 seconds walking over the stage while when your name is being called is really, or really didn't bring me so much enjoyment. So I decided that I'm going to celebrate every milestone of my PhD journey. And it was really a rewarding process. So even though it was not an easy uh, road or easy process, uh, I celebrated each part of it. And it became one of those degrees that I remember the most and enjoyed the most during my whole, during the time that I was studying at university. The sixth tip that I want to share is keep fighting. So keep fighting comes with the number of sacrifices that you will have to make. There is sacrifices in terms of family, there is sacrifices in terms of colleagues, there are sacrifices in terms of friends. The time that you spend on your thesis will take a lot of time away from the time that you normally would give towards your children, your friends, your family, and your colleagues, and even to yourself. And what that does, it deflates you, it demotivates you to a certain extent, because it's never nice to sit on a Sunday reading while other people is outside enjoying their lives. And that's why this principle on keep fighting came in for me. So I reminded myself the sacrifices is worth it, because at the end there will be a price, and that price would be changing the legacy of my family. And the final tip would be stay hungry. So eventually, ladies and gentlemen, you will finish your master's and PhD. But then thereafter, a new journey will come, and you will have to be hungry for that journey. Now, there's something that I take literal, and I take it figuratively. So as I am speaking to you, I am on a fast. So I'm fasting like 20 hours a day, about 20 hours a day. I fast because I need to feel hungry again. Because what happened during my master's process, I became overweight and it caused a lot of my illnesses. So I decided that this is a process where I have to stay hungry, but I also have to, and that hunger reminded me, the physical hunger reminded me of my drive out of poverty. And what happened was it started triggering a deeper hunger for more success and not being happy with only accomplishing a master's or PhD. There's much more things in life that we can accomplish. So that feeling, that sense of hunger is my way of reminding myself there's a lot more to do. So when I start a new chapter like Abrasive Media, then I would go back to my same motivational tips. I would have to know why I'm doing it. I have to not allow fear to paralyze me. There's no replacement for hard work. I have to redefine failure, what it means for Abrasive Media. I have to celebrate my successes. I have to keep on fighting, especially the sacrifices that comes with it. And once Abrasive Media is going to be the success that it's going to be, then I'm off to a new journey. I have to stay hungry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and please share those things that drives you and keeps you motivated in your master's and PhD process. Let me know where you are in your process, and let's have a conversation. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.